Sony's about to make a big announcement in the next 3 months. Thanks to Chinese blogger E8M8888, we have a Sony registration from December the 4th, 2024, and that's WW773396, showcasing a dual-band Sony camera. With the A1 II announced last month, all eyes are on the Sony A7 IV. And when it comes to camera registrations, E8M8888 is always bang on. All eyes are on the Sony A7 IV for a winter announcement. But the only question is, will Sony be bold or release a camera that was designed by committee and approved by focus group? Before we get to the details, all I ask is to please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything, helps this channel grow, and keeps you up to date on the latest camera coverage. Whenever we have a camera registration, whether it be Canon, Sony, Panasonic, Nikon, or anybody else, you can always bank on an announcement happening within the next 1 to 3 months. And that would place the Sony A7 IV to be, well, announced sometime between mid-January and mid-March, barring any major parts shortages that have plagued much of 2024. So what about the specifications? Well, according to the camera registration, we know that it's going to be dual-band Wi-Fi, 2.4 and 5 GHz. But in terms of any other specifications, all the regular sources have come forward and said, we don't have anything reliable or validated. But I did have one source come forward and tell me that the Sony A7 IV will have an improved autofocus system and feature Sony's AI processing chip. And this is hardly a surprise. Sony's put that AI processing chip in every single camera that's come out since, well, the release of the Sony A7R5, which debuted that AI processing chip. And that was back in December of 2022. And with Canon's new autofocus system and their new Digic accelerator chip, which is code for an AI processing chip, announced in the R5 Mark II and the R1, delivering much improved autofocus system. Delivering an autofocus system, and I have the camera here so I can speak from experience, the autofocus system thinks much the way you would. It's able to track subjects that have the ball. If you're tracking volleyball, basketball, soccer, whoever has the ball, it's able to track that person and lock onto their eyes, and that's really, really handy. And with that new autofocus system and the Digic accelerator chip, rumored to go in the Canon EOS R6 Mark III, a camera that's also supposed to be announced sometime in winter of 2025, well, all pressure is on Sony to do the same. So an updated autofocus system and the AI processing chip, that's pretty much a foregone conclusion. But some of the other specifications that this source told me about, I haven't been able to validate them. And they seem a little bit, how should we say, bold. But I'm talking crazy bold. The kind of bold where even I'm not comfortable putting them out there at this point. But turning our attention to the oracle of all things Sony, Andrea Pizzini thinks that the A7 IV will indeed be bold and not a committee-planned camera approved through focus groups.
I think there's a chance they will be more bold with the Sony A7 V, so more that the update will be bigger and more than just a facelift.
So why is Andrea so hopeful? Well, he believes that Sony is going to introduce their new 45 megapixel sensor that's capable of 8K and 26 frames per second, the AtomX 366 AJK in the Sony A7 V. Andrea thinks that this Sony 44 megapixel sensor, the AtomX 366 AJK, could indeed go in the Sony A7 V, and this would indeed make it a bold camera, not a committee designed, approved by focus groups type camera, giving us an update that, in all intents and purposes, could be provided in a firmware update. In fact, Andrea goes even further, and again, let's cue his own words.
I can see this being implemented on the Sony A7 V. What do you think? That would be exciting, to step up from 33 to 44 megapixel. That sensor reads out much faster, so instead of having 10 frames per second, we will probably get not to the full 26, but maybe 20 or 25. I don't think it would be 25. That would be too close to the A1 II, so maybe 20 would be the sweet spot for Sony. But there's really a fair chance they could use that sensor because it really exists, so I'm crossing my fingers. Let's cross all our fingers that this is the sensor coming inside the A7 V.
That would be bold indeed. exceeding that 10 frames per second, oversampled 4K. But therein lies the problem. Doing all of this, and I mean all of this, including 26 frames per second, while it does go after the Canon EOS R5, it does something that Sony doesn't normally like to do, and that's to cannibalize other cameras, such as the A7S III and the FX3. And you see, that's why I'm not telling you the leaked specifications from this one source, this unknown source, because, well, it seems to go against what Sony's done in the past. To release a camera this bold in the A7 IV, it would, well, make the A7S III and its successor, or the FX3 successor, not nearly as appealing. It would step on the toes. It would cannibalize that line. And from what I've seen from Sony, that's not something Sony would do. Now, what Sony would do is, and I've seen this before, is they could keep the A7 IV around, release the A7 V and an A7 V RX or something, as they did with the A7C. They kept the A7C, they released the A7C2 and a high-resolution version of the A7C2. To cannibalize a product line, I don't know. That's where I have trouble. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But if you're somebody who has, well, you've overheard information, you have other information that you can add to this discussion that's coming from an authoritative place, if you could at least confirm or deny certain aspects of this, whether you give me specs or not, I please encourage you to reach out to me. Send me a direct message through X, or you can email me from my YouTube channel on the main page. Yes, you do have to jump through a few hoops to get to the email address, but here it is here. One thing is clear. One thing is 100% clear. Nikon just stepped it up with the Nikon Z6 Mark III, and basically they're best in class. With the Canon EOS R6 Mark III due to be announced in Q1 sometime in the winter of 2025, Sony knows they're up against stiff competition. If they do release a minor update, playing it safe and not cannibalizing the A7S III, its successor, the A7 IV, or the FX3 and its successor, well, they're probably going to lose some of their market share to Canon and Nikon. But if they do step it up, then they risk cannibalizing the A7S III, its successor, the FX3, and its successor. And that's an interesting place to be. Now, from my point of view and your point of view, this is great news. This is exciting. This is competition at its best. The Nikon Z6 Mark III, take a look at it. It right now is best in class. And with Canon getting ready to refresh their camera, the R6 Mark III, well, to come out with the R6 Mark III to refresh the R6 Mark II, with a stacked sensor with that new Digic accelerator chip, looks like Canon's going to step it up to compete against Nikon and maybe take the crown back. And then with Sony releasing the A7 V, well, I think whether you own a Nikon, Canon, or Sony, you're going to be really excited by the announcements we're going to see in the winter of 2025. However, if you think that 10 frames per second is more than fine and the video capabilities of the A7 IV to be more than adequate for your needs today, well then consider getting the camera right now because it's $400 off. And that's at B&H, Adorama, and Amazon.com. But I have one small favor to ask of you. If you are interested in purchasing the A7 IV or any other cameras and lenses, please consider using my affiliate links down below. These guys right here, because what they do is they help keep the lights on. They keep this channel going, and you get to benefit from a good camera at a really great price and support the channel. You don't have to put in any codes, fill out any links, or anything like that. These links take you directly to Adorama, Amazon.com, or B&H. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a great week with just about a week and a half to go to Christmas. I'm getting pretty excited about what I'm hearing about 2025, and that's something. Usually December is a bit of a sleeper month at the beginning, but things start to hype up as people go, you know what, I don't care about Christmas, I don't care about any of the holidays, I don't care about New Year's, all I care about my new cameras. And by the way, guys, here's some leaked information. So again, if you are privy to any information that you can share with me, please reach out to me with a direct message on X or my email address, which I just showed you how to get to it through the main page of YouTube. Go ahead and click on this right here. Send me an email and let me know what you have to say. Anyhow, thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourself a great week, and we'll see you again soon.